Welcome to Tidbit Talkin. This is a series that consists of spewing out assorted thoughts which arose from somebody who thinks too much, taking in, and generally loving various entertainment media by the boatload. These tidbits may be little theories, observations, or simply jokes. Please bear in mind that all these ideas come from the perspective of somebody who's experienced every main story bit connected with whatever is currently being gone over. So spoilers will be here. However, other works set in a shared continuity will typically solely be referenced in a way that only makes sense to anybody who's also fully experienced those ones up until their same time occurring points. Sort of a coded nod kind of deal. Now, with all of that out of the way, here we go. Elseworlds Hour One. Speedsters may be able to outrun reality rewrites if they are aware of such things happening because their power source lets them sense said stuff a little bit. That meaning, if they weren't keen on what was going on, everything would just seem like some sort of odd tingle or whatever. The doctor woman who stormed out of Deegan's presentation about improving humanity probably read all about DeVoe's enlightenment plan in Iris's article. Mrs. West Allen making perfect pancakes now might be because Deegan, who wanted to turn himself into the Flash, is a breakfast connoisseur. Oliver, of course, immediately understands how to work the flash ring because he saw Vaughn use a reversed one. It seems like Barry adjusts to his new role as Green Arrow much easier than Oliver handles the fresh flashing that was mysteriously dished out. Regular Mr. Allen might still have at least somewhat faster thought processes due to the Speed Force remembering who really should have its power on Earth 1. Like, say, said supernatural sparking station supplies him with power for a brief moment before the irregular reality rewriting ruckus that is Deegan's book bunk blasts quickness energy into typically Mr. Queen over there. That barely born bounciness boost would be enough to grant the super speed starved Scarlet Speedster with sufficient swiftness for highly accelerated new mystical muscle memory manufacturing, but not really anything else. Iris may have mentioned the nanites, which came courtesy of Ray Palmer, because Deegan's disfigured dimension development flubbed things concerning both Mrs. West Allen and Eobard Thawne due to them sharing somewhat similar sentiment about Barry being life's MVP. If a wonky cosmic retcon can make two people switch places, surely it could force another duo to get slightly more time together. Nobody seems to know about the Red Sky's significance or Nora. Deegan might have been focusing too much on the Flash's publicly known or at least speculated aspects when using that book. Thus his failure leads to primarily private Scarlet Speedster stuff shaping up in ways which aren't so perfectly formed. The switcheroo sparking, super situation shaping screw-up seems to involve Dr. Anthony Ivo being in a state that made mid-late 2010s contained ultra-android weapon manufacturing possible for him. If this whole deal was still going on in normal reality, then maybe the Meso project was commissioned decades ago as a JSA contingency plan, and Dr. Ivo got called on to restart it just in case his Mirakuru research went all sideways. Symbols displaying on a Meso whenever he absorbs heroic super abilities probably involve him being built with a database containing priority powers to hunt down. A Meso is probably designed to access only one power at a time, so stopping him can be made easier for his creators in the event he went rogue. If they didn't actually care about the world damage such a worst case scenario could cause, surely lawsuit fears would make them think about such things. Elseworlds Hour Two. Joe Wilson may have showed up because of the error that deleted Nora. Basically, the crappy creation couldn't keep track of which interesting life-having super kids were currently supposed to be around. Oliver probably doesn't believe in Batman because his precious Felicity couldn't ever find any suspicious computer activity in Gotham. The Dark Knight being that good at wiping away news mentions doesn't seem so far-fetched, nor does Oracle doing it for him. Speaking of which, earlier on in his series, Oliver said that codename wasn't available for Felicity. Maybe this universe's Barbara Gordon leaves an online calling card that results in her digital Bat Family contributions being known as something incredibly vague, but still noteworthy. Like, say, this mythical-sounding hacker is known for exposing incredible amounts of illegal money transfers or whatever that was only ever publicly known as typical corporate corruption, but was actually some wackiness Two-Face pulled off. Barry basically immediately attacks the assailants, just as Oliver would, because that previously mentioned leftover fast-thinking also caused his reflexive Green Arrow arrow behavior to get integrated into moody muscle memory much quicker. The red skies and lightning don't follow everybody to Gotham because Barry 90 doesn't like visiting there either. Deegan probably knew of Dawn and got helped out by him with covering up Gotham residing metas such as Poison Ivy and Clayface because the stranded Sunny Shade sporting sinister scientists reached out earlier in an attempt to find speed recovery alternatives that didn't involve helping out Barry Allen. Hiding that stuff, which would make Deegan's research much easier, was of course how Ebard paid the guy for all his superpower related info. In a similar vein, Wells' disguise wearing Reverse Flash might have helped cure Nora Freeze, so Victor would be willing to help out with some cleverly hidden evil bodily problems as well. Plus, having somebody who uses a cold weapon feel gratitude towards him would be a really nice bonus. Also, tying into these two tidbits, everything in Gotham being all not regularly discussed makes avoiding timeline changes easier for Eobard when dealing with folks from there. It's basically the perfect place for him to seek help. The fear toxin makes Barry and Oliver see their swapped role nemesis because currently, what they're actually most afraid of is not fixing said switch situation stuff. Terror Guy's scaredy gas likely only works on somebody with accelerated healing / metabolism here because Deegan's screw-up made it more powerful. While it would make sense for him to have created New Universe Gotham almost perfectly, since he was so familiar with the original place, this specific error might involve his dreams of medically manufactured metas messing with things a little bit. That is, his deeply ingrained desires for self-originating pharmaceutical junk functioning much better accidentally empowered others' custom drugs when he put a reality together all sloppily. Oliver sees that Wells' body is gone because he's never witnessed the real deal before. On top of that, if he is aware about the skin-snatching situation due to Barry conversing, then perhaps witnessing another wrong body experiencing individual is just another real fear-associated toxin effect. Oliver was able to come up with wordy stuff that would calm Felicity down so easily because he finally got the hang of a speedster's accelerated mental capacities. Barry 90 seems to finally be able to break through once the Monitor wants everybody to confront him. Novu simply let the guy join Earth 1 Super Squad so he could speed things up by informing them they are all involved in a higher power originating test. The Monitor's think bigger comment inspires Deegan to focus on certain supers because he believes they are practically incapable of getting influenced by that book since there was apparently only one mention of them within it. Nothing's really bigger than evading divine power or whatever. Deegan makes Barry and Oliver the Trigger Twins because he thinks they are the least impressive members of Batman's Rogues Gallery. On that note, Deegan feeling like his Superman suit should be black likely involved him envying the Dark Knight's criminal tremble producing image. Elseworlds Hour 3. The Monitor is blocking Deegan from erasing minds belonging to people he's testing in a coming crisis combating capability calculating capacity. In addition to believing Kryptonians are reality alteration immune, because the Book of Destiny didn't mention them much, Deegan might think they are all clearly Flash superior due to speedster time travel capability related ignorance. See, the tome couldn't contain Swift Soldier scribblings about such things because their ability to make fate irrelevant renders that aspect of them incomprehensible from its perspective. Else Alex's device seems to emit some kind of ultrasonic screech that hurts Kara, but not Cal Deegan. This may be because the man didn't know Kryptonians possess simple super senses, on top of their more extravagant, clearly observable powers like heat vision and freeze breath. Deegan might think Clark and Kara are simply metas because reading a certain piece of magical literature didn't make him privy to alien ancestry-associated hoopla. This would have resulted in him forming them as people who could get cell-dampened in the pipeline while putting his new reality together. However, Ms. Zor-El retained a bit of power because the Monitor still needed her all super for his test. Maybe she was merely rendered half human or something. Mr. Ramon likely still sports hand-originating visual spectacle vibe powers because Deegan wanted a high-profile adversary that makes him look nice and formidable by providing plenty of super ability showing off chances. Crime-comfortable Cisco probably doesn't have visions anymore though, because the Monitor wanted that factor eliminated so he could see how Barry and Oliver would fare without such help. Barry was likely inspired to slow down time somehow by his daughter's ability to rewind it. Mr. Allen's nonsense comment about him and Kara needing to go around the globe at Mach 7 could involve Deegan putting physics together all funky, while new world making because he doesn't understand said field very much. Plus, his need to render Superman clearly Flash better might have had a side effect that involved making Kryptonians even more ridiculously strong than usual. Thus, Kara could easily mess with earthly rotations at such relatively low speeds. Alternatively, Deegan installed some sort of weird physical rule in his new world that made even supposedly restored not him super folks considerably weaker than they should be. This might have even taken the form of a kinda supernatural speed limit that kills amazing folks who approach would make fake Kal-El look bad levels of fastness. Novu would have countered this somewhat by rendering them capable of performing such crazy feats at lower speeds so they could still win. On that note, the Monitor may have gifted Barry knowledge about these wonky new physics to see if he and Kara would be all supreme save supplying self-sacrifice ready before true crisis shenanigans started up. It seems like that apparently current reality immune arrow Oliver shoots at the book is made of material similar to what Thawne's old time sphere was built from. The Flash and the Furious. Thawne thinking about Nora Allen's murder every day isn't because he regrets the deed. Focusing upon it is merely necessary for making calculations concerning manipulating the timeline to get what he wants. Eobard probably knew that Iris wouldn't tell Nora about him killing her namesake due to a combination of having dual freakishly Flash familiar brain access and other temporarily located self-time language communication that involves an iteration who's constantly stalking Mama Speedster. Or maybe Gideon just had a recorded diary of Iris saying she would never tell her daughter, and he got access to it because hacking. Thawne taps into Wells' memories and feelings that are constantly updating based on various timeline changes in order to convince Nora he's full of genuine regret. Cisco may be having considerably less visions than even his recent normal because all the reality changes from Elseworlds coupled with those prior injuries have made him struggle a lot when it comes to possibility detecting. Barry's dance move assisting limbs uncontrollably phase much more than his torso and head because such things are already kinda prone to involuntary movement anyway. Cisco's dark matter cure doesn't really remove metagenetics, so it still leaves those who use it with a possibility to get repowered via other means like whatever made the Justice Society. The car can phase and turn invisible like a speedster because Argus somehow figured out how to get a hold of Speed Force energy. They might have even deciphered how to tap into Barry's bizarre battery by examining the bazooka that trapped Savitar in Season 3. Team Flash would have let that other secret group do this as a way of repaying them for lending out their Dominator power cell. The super studying Shady Sector would have been interested in giving vehicles supreme speed so they could chase criminals all across time and space without having to get outside help. Those wires inside Thawne's chestplate are stimulating Cicada's dagger somehow in order to activate it. Gideon might actually be capable of translating the time language but doesn't do so because it's been forbidden by her creator. Considering Barry probably made the wonderful AI lady to help stop timeline warping shenanigans, this sort of rule would make a lot of sense. Seeing Red. Killer Frost is familiar with Barney's I Love You song because the point at which young Caitlin got sick of it, as kids usually do, happens to be among her first appearance triggers. Sing's anger at Barry concerning him jumping to conclusions about that stolen meta-criminal list doesn't involve any sort of true disbelief. Rather, he's merely upset that Mr. Allen didn't do a better job of investigating things all cool and collected after the prior year's DeVoe debacle. The helicopter pilot probably stuck around so willingly because he somehow heard about Elongated Man's unofficial debut and all of its stopping Mayor Bellows from kidnapping Joe West related shenanigans. On that note, Bellows didn't out Ralph because he figured the guy could get in and out of prison easily. Nobody wants a stretchy fist pummeling them behind bars after all. Caitlin likely knew when to tell Killer Frost that ducking was necessary because she spends a lot of time going over theoretical ways her team could get injured in the field. The dagger return timing deal was deduced while studying Captain Boomerang's activities. Sure, he didn't encounter the Flash all that much in this continuity, but one of his boomerangs did cause problems inside of Star Labs once. Barry didn't tap into the negative Speed Force while mercilessly pummeling Cicada because he has a far greater amount of its less temperamental counterpart to convert than Nora does. Sing's especially angry at the Mole Jonesy because he just realized that Cecile is a meta, and there's also suspicion brewing within him regarding XS/Nora being Barry Allen's daughter somehow. That of course makes David realize baby Jenna might have powers too, and being filled with speculative thought bursts, which mostly involve people he cares deeply for getting murdered, totally pisses him off. Related, Sing might have deduced time travel is really a thing after peeking at Barry's hidden mom crime scene board and looking into Martin Stein once the guy started hanging around Star Labs. Memorabilia. That Imagine X has a big secret monologue Nora echoed from Iris could have actually been utilized in-universe within one of the latter's journalism pieces, like, say, in her DeVoe expose. Something along the lines of, imagine this unassuming history teacher has an unbelievable secret. Future Iris may have never taken Nora ice skating before because falling and hurting her shoulder, particularly in ways that involve getting the wound wet, could short-circuit a certain meta-dampening chip. Sherlock almost definitely left Grace's mental pattern installed within the mind-roaming device overnight so he could set up a trap for Nora that would enable him to observe her mind and discover hidden co-conspirator-related things. His plan backfired because a lack of neurological knowledge rendered him incapable of determining how troublesome Turing, dark matter wound-experiencing brains can be. Nora's memories of seeing speculative info about Orlin being Cicada in the Flash Museum are probably forming her mindscape shape because they and other new timeline info deals are desperately trying to assert themselves as all she knows. She was able to resist up until this point because of her constant journal reading/writing. That can't be relied on in literal mental places, however, because something she's only doing as a result of Eobard's orders isn't truly important enough to manifest within her wondering world. Grace Cicada likely became active shortly after the Flash vanished in 2024 because this timeline's Orlin got stopped when regular Central City citizens started fighting back against him after realizing their recently murdered relatives were non-power-using peaceful metas. Of course, no matter how many of them were present, these people couldn't really do much when their home's favorite hero wasn't around anymore to supply impossibly powerful support. Thus, she began her own murder spree following his disappearance. Nora's ever-updating memories of the new timeline and focusing on fatherly well-being deals are what prevent her from suspecting that Thawne could possibly be manipulating things purely for himself. Iris is able to sense mental block reverse flash suit robot coming from around the corner and shout, "Get down!" at Barry because Nora was mad at her for so long that she mastered discovering daughter-dwelling depressing deals. The Mad 2.0 probably busts during this little mind excursion, even though it worked perfectly while exploring DeVoe's supposedly savagely superior speculation station because Grace's dark matter shrapnel-induced mental barrier formed defenses capable of fighting off junk much less complicated than full brains first. Nora is extra misremembering things because Thawne has already started to push her into using the negative speed force for the sake of his ever-so-cherished screwing with Barry Allen hobby. He accomplishes this by making sure to always put anger-embracing suggestions into their communications. Endings are a pain, but all of you are fantastic. See ya.